Well, I don't want to wait too much longer. I want to make sure we can cover everything that we need to cover in class today. So since everybody who's here is online, I'm going to go through a little bit what the participation assignment looks like for today. And one of the easiest ways to get it done is to kind of do it along with us. So that's, if people were in class, that's what I'd have them doing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show you what we're going to be working with. So if you go over to weekly content and click on week 2, which is where we're at, and this 9-2 participation, what is here is this file. So if you pull that up, you're going to get a Word document, which I conveniently already have loaded. That looks like this. Can everybody see this Word doc? Or is it not sharing it? Yes, thank you, Carissa. Just also as a heads up, I'm not sure if folks will be able to see all the chat. So if you want to send me a direct message, go ahead and shoot it to my email for the moment, and I'll handle it after class. I don't want anything to pop up for everyone to see while I'm like sharing lots of stuff. So just as a heads up to folks. So what we're going to do throughout this presentation is fill out our Idaho goals. So this whole presentation is on goal setting. So if you want to pull this up and you hit enable editing, you should be able to fill it out as we cover the different areas. And then for the folks online, which is all 3 of you right now, I'll just have you submit that. Once you fill it out, you can save it as that Word doc and then resubmit it in that submission section on BBLearn. Does that sound good to everybody? Pretty clear? Hopefully. Yep, cool. Thanks, y'all. Okay, so we're gonna jump back in to the actual presentation. I'm gonna share this. Share. Okay, so one of the things that I want all of you to learn about me from the get-go is that I love dumb memes. So you will see a lot of dumb memes throughout these presentations, just as a heads up. So today we're talking about goal setting, and last week we ended on talking about success. So as we go through this presentation, I want you to keep in mind your definition of success and how that ties into the goals that we're making. So I want to start off with a little bit of a question. What is challenging about setting and completing goals? So if I could have you all chime in, that would be awesome. So I could hear what's challenging. Let's start with you, Satina.
Picking realistic goals.
Yeah, I think picking realistic goals is a really big challenge. I'm all for pie in the sky dreams, but I think sometimes we have to be a bit more realistic with ourselves. That's great, thank you. Susanna.
Study, or like finding the time to study.
Yeah, I think that can be hard. So if your goal setting is about studying, that's awesome, but then how do you actually put that into your schedule? Where do you find the times for yourself? Very cool. Carissa.
Setting goals is stressful.
It is. Yeah, no, it definitely is. I think that's something that we don't always talk about, is that setting a goal can put a lot of pressure on you. You know, is it a goal that's good enough? Quotes around it. So the academic coaching team came up with a fun little acronym, because we love acronyms here. And it's your Idaho goal, so your IDAHO goal. So what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, if you've heard of SMART goals, it's kind of like that, only with a few more steps so that it actually fills out and becomes a really good goal. So the acronym stands for I, identifying your goal. What do you actually want to do? D, decide the duration. How long will it take? A, actualize the steps. So what are the steps to complete it? H, it stands for help and accountability. So what resources are able to help? And O is observe your progress. How's it going? So what we're going to do is kind of work through these goals or work through building a goal for ourselves by going through all of these steps one at a time. So first, identify your goal. Your goal should be specific and achievable. So that's the biggest thing that people tend to forget when they're goal setting is they'll either make their goals really, really vague. So like, I know I always had the goal of be successful, right? That's pretty vague. What does that mean? What does that look like? And obviously we had our discussion on what success is. So maybe now you have a little bit more direction. So you can use that definition to actually add some specificity to your goal. And then it needs to be achievable. So sometimes this means taking a really critical look at what it is that you want to accomplish and whether or not that's actually achievable within the time frame that you're giving yourself. So I had kind of a wake-up call one semester when I was taking a graduate level math class, and on the first test I had gotten a 30%. I don't think I ever got better than a 70 on any assignments. So I was sitting at like a D in the class, and my whole thought was like, okay, my goal is to get a B in this class. Well, when I sat down and did the math, I realized that a B was not achievable. I'd have to get over 100% on everything, and that instructor doesn't do that. That professor didn't offer any extra credit or anything like that. So realistically, I couldn't get the B that I was hoping for. So I went back and I revisited and realized that it was totally achievable for me to try and get a C. So that's what I shifted my goal to. So sometimes it feels really, really rough to have to consider if something maybe isn't as achievable as we were hoping, but it can be good in the long run. Because if we set achievable goals and we realize that they are actually achievable, it's gonna feel a lot better when we get them, right? If we set some goal that realistically is never going to be achievable for ourselves, we're only gonna add more stress to our life. So, whoa. I opened the windows and the door just opened and it felt very haunted. Okay, anyway. So for an example, we can say, I'm going to complete my English 101 assignment early. Thank you for laughing at me, everybody. So awesome, completing my English 101 assignment early. Cool. There's no question about what that goal is. Now, I have some questions, as in like, what assignment is it and what does early mean? But we can tackle those things in the next step. So what I want you all to do is identify a goal. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a time frame because I want this to be hopefully productive for us. I want you to figure out a goal that you want to achieve in the next 2 weeks. Okay? So maybe that's getting an assignment done early, or maybe it's spending X number of hours studying. I want everyone to take a sec and figure out what goal they have. And I'm going to do this along with you because I don't feel like anyone should, like an instructor shouldn't give you an assignment if they aren't going to do it too. So I'm going to hop over to my Word document for my Idaho goal. I realize you can't see this. That's okay. You might have to reduce the font size. Yeah, you will. But that's okay. So my goal, and I will now share this with you. For the next 2 weeks is to upload all slides to BB for my INTR 101 course. So, I also think that you all can judge me. So what do you think? Is this goal specific?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Is this goal achievable? I mean, this is kind of a personal thing, right? Like, do I have enough time in my week? So I'm going to make the decision here. Yes, I think this goal is achievable for me. So I was wondering if any of you feel comfortable in sharing what your goal is for the next 2 weeks. You can just shout it out.
I put that I want to remain on top of my schoolwork and my attendance.
Nice, I like it. Anybody else have a goal they want to share?
Survive my group essay.
Very good one, yes.
I just said I want to wake up like at least before 9.
Heck yes, that's a fantastic goal. That's been something that I've been struggling with when I work from home some days. It's really hard to get up. Okay, so I'm going to jump back over to our PowerPoint. Hopefully you can all still see this. Okay, so we identified our goals. And all of those, thank you, were super clear. Like I understood exactly what you were going for. So now we're going to decide the duration. Now, I kind of gave you some guidance on this. I said within the next 2 weeks, but let's say you want to extend your attendance a little bit longer, or you want to finish that essay sooner, or you just want to plan for waking up tomorrow before 9. So go ahead and set a duration for yourself. Give yourself a deadline. I'm not going to swap back over to the Word document quite yet, but my deadline for getting everything up is going to be like, following the calendar. It's going to be 2 weeks from Saturday. So that would be the 19th is when I'm going to have everything up. Now, sometimes with deadlines, you have to include a specific time of day, right? So you Satinas with waking up at a specific time, obviously that incorporates an even like closer deadline of time. Now, if you have an assignment that you're hoping to turn in, it's really important to include the time that your professor has it listed. So on our BB Learn page, everything's due at 11:59 p.m. But I know some professors choose to have stuff due at 5 p.m. or at other weird times. So just make sure you understand what those due dates are if that's your goal. Okay, so hopefully you had a little bit of time to fill that out. And we'll jump over to A. So actualizing the steps. And what this means is how are we actually going to complete our goal? So breaking our big goal down into smaller chunks that are more easy to accomplish. And the reason that it's really good to actually write out the steps to your goal is that oftentimes we'll set a goal of complete an essay, right? Which is awesome, but we don't give ourselves how we're going to do it. We don't give a roadmap to follow. So one thing that we can do when we're actualizing steps is develop something called an action plan. Now, if this sounds familiar, that's because on the first day, I talked about how our final project will involve an action plan. So we'll dive into that a little bit today, and even more so during our time management lecture on Friday. What we're going to do is break down larger tasks or projects into smaller chunks. And for each of those chunks, we're going to list an intermediate deadline. So we're going to also, when we're actualizing these steps, think of any barriers that might pop up and reflect on our support. So obviously our H comes in naturally with our action plan. So an action plan can look like this, where we kind of schedule out something. So, oh, the dates on this are funky, that's okay. Let's say I'm writing a paper. My action plan might look like this. On one day, I'm going to schedule an appointment with the writing center, and that's the only thing I'm going to do. And then I'm going to prepare a rough draft. And then I'm going to submit the rough draft to the writing center by the day that I have my appointment. Then I'm going to edit that draft with the writing center tutor's suggestions. And then I'm going to submit a final draft. So it seems kind of natural, right? Like whenever we're doing a project, we develop these steps in our head, which is awesome, but it's even more productive when we actually write them down. Because when we write down what we're trying to accomplish, we're more likely to actually accomplish it. So Oops. Okay. What I'm gonna do is swap over to an action plan little thing. So I can post this online so that everybody can see it as well. I can put it on our BB Learn page, but this is a template for action planning. So what it does is you clearly list what task you have and the overall due date, which is what we've already kind of done with our Idaho goal. And then you make a plan. So for this action plan, we have an example of completing it by 14 days before the due date, because they want to get it done early for this step one. And that step one is to make an appointment with the Writing Center and brainstorm ideas. Then a few days later, they're going to go to the library and find 3 text sources. Then they're going to begin a rough draft and write 750 out of the total 1,500 words, double spaced with in-text citations and an MLA works cited page. Then they're going to finish the rough draft. So that'll be the rest of the 1,500 words, double spaced with citations. Then they're going to make an appointment with the Writing Center to make edits to their rough draft, revise with the Writing Center, and save as a PDF to submit to BB Learn. So what's something that you notice about this action plan?
It's very spread out.
It's very spread out. Yeah, they gave themselves a lot of time to get this done. What else do we notice about it? Anything?
It's detailed, so it's not like just vague statements.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very detailed. So this person went in and they made sure that there's no questions about what their step consists of and what they're trying to accomplish. So that's really great. One of the things that I notice about this action plan is that each step is relatively small. So for that step one, that make an appointment with the Writing Center to brainstorm ideas, you'll notice that they didn't say write the whole rough draft or anything like that. That first step is just to brainstorm. And then in step 2, all they're doing is finding 3 text sources. So most people, when we sit down to try and like make these giant plans for ourselves, we run into the issue of like kind of procrastinating all of the work. Like I know myself, I was always like, oh, I'm going to start my paper 3 weeks early. And then I sit down to do it and nothing happens. And I just spend like an hour and a half in the library on like a Wikipedia like black hole search for stuff versus actually getting anything done. So one way to combat that is when we talk about our action plan, talk about our steps for building this goal, it's really important to make those steps as small as we need them to actually get stuff done. So if it is just like make an appointment the first day, awesome. If you're someone who just needs a little push and then you can go on, you can give yourself the step of saying like, oh, I want to write 750 words the first day. But doing whatever it is that you know will actually be successful for yourself is the most important part of this. So what I'm going to have us do is hop back over to our goal page. And Kurt, if you go onto the participation assignment for this class, you'll see a Word document for Idaho goals. And what we're doing is kind of filling this out as we go through the lecture. And then since all of you are online, you'll just submit it for the participation points. Sound good? Cool. Okay, so I talked about my deadline for myself as September 19th. So now I'm going to actually actualize the steps for this. So I'm going to give everybody a bit of time to write down the steps that you have for yourself for whatever goals we talked about. So we'll take like 10 minutes to give yourself a full action plan. And while that is happening, I'm going to stop share there. And I'm going to turn off my video and my mic, and we're going to take a hot sec to figure out what our steps are. But before we do that, does anybody have any questions about what I'm trying to have you do?
Yeah, I couldn't find that page. Where did you say it was?
Oh, let me show you. I can hop over there. So you're gonna go to our BB Learn page, go to the weekly content, and then week 2, and it's today's participation assignment. So
Okay.
it's this doc that's right here. And it should be a Word doc, and you should be able to type in it. If you have any issues, you can always write it on a piece of paper and submit a photo of your goal as well.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go to this. I'm gonna mute my stuff. I'm also going to close the windows so that the door stops opening on myself. And we'll go there. want to start finishing up what our action plans look like, we're going to start kind of talking through what those are. So I have enabled screen share in case anyone would like to share their screen to show their action plan, sort of like write up. Or if you just want to kind of like share what it looks like, that's what you can do as well. So I'll start by sharing mine so you can see it. So what I have is for 9/3, so that's tomorrow, I'm going to finish uploading week 2s. And then for the 5th, I'm going to upload week 3. And then I'm going to put weeks 4 through 6 on SlideShare. So when I put presentations on BB Learn, I have to first put them on a different website and then upload from there. So I'm going to do that step. Then I'm going to upload weeks 4 and 5. I'll upload week 6. Then I'll put weeks 6 and 7 or 7 and 8 on SlideShare, and finally upload weeks 7 and 8. So as you can see for this action plan, I didn't go super into a ton of detail, right? So I don't have like a time limit for myself. I just say that I'm going to do it on these days, and it's small chunks. Now, some of the steps you might want to add a lot more detail too. So if we look at our actual example, this person put in a lot more detail for what they're trying to do, and that's awesome. It's all about as much detail as you need. So if I'm working on a paper, I'm going to put a lot more detail into each of my steps. But if I'm just trying to accomplish something like getting stuff uploaded online, it doesn't require as much detail. So that's an important part of goal setting, is knowing exactly how much you need to put into these things. So what are some of the steps that y'all have listed for your goals? Let's start with Susanna, since she popped up.
I put just like attend study table, work on math homework, reset calendar so it fits with my like new schedule depending on like where I get assignments and stuff. And then just attend weekly classes.
Very cool. So one suggestion might be to include the actual times of those study tables if you didn't already, just as a reminder for yourself to when exactly those are happening. And that can be the same with your classes as well. Like obviously it's week 2, you might be getting into more of a rhythm and know when all of that stuff is happening, but it never hurts to include that info as well. Awesome, thank you. Anybody else want to share what their steps were for their goal? I just need one more person, please. Let's have Justina, thank you. Oh, you did the little hand raise. Oh, that's so good.
So mine were super simple.
Awesome.
I only have 4. So I said I will shoot to go to bed before 1 a.m. on weekdays, starting today. I will
Great.
try to be off my phone at least half an hour before going to sleep, starting today. I will communicate with my friends that I want to go to bed earlier, starting today. And I will try to be in my room by 12:30 a.m. on weeknights, starting today.
Very good, and very good use of like sleep skills that are usually posted. Those are awesome things to include. So what I like is that you set some specific time limits for yourself and they were realistic. So if you've been going to bed every morning at like 3 a.m., it's going to be really hard to suddenly shift to going to bed at like 10 p.m. So just shifting that needle a little bit each time is way more achievable for yourself, which is awesome. Okay, I'm going to jump back over to our PowerPoint. Share. Oh gosh, so many clicks. Okay, so now we're going to jump to the H in our Idaho goal, which is help and accountability. So when you're building a goal, it can be really useful to kind of problem solve before the problems happen. So rather than hitting a barrier and going, oh my gosh, what sort of support do I have? If you plan that into your overall goal, it's going to be a lot easier to overcome it. So there was a director of academic success at the University of Idaho named Nancy Lubert, who has this really amazing quote that all of the academic coaches love, which is, "It is responsible and professional to use your resources." So as a student here, you have a ton of things available to you for free, and it's kind of silly to not use them. So in order to encourage yourself to use those resources, you can build them into your actual goal. So just to list a few resources that are available, we have academic coaching, career services, counseling and testing center, drop-in tutoring, the LGBTQA office, the Office of Multicultural Affairs, SI Pass, and the Women's Center. Now there's a lot more. There's resources like your advisor, your friends. Your friends are always a really great resource. Your instructors, your classmates, all sorts of different people who are here to help. So what I want you to do is think just for a minute about maybe some resources that would work in your goal. So for me, where I'm trying to get all of this stuff uploaded, one of the biggest resources I have is my coworker, who also is an academic coach and who teaches a course like this later in the semester. And she's really great with tech. So if I run into any sort of technology issues, I know that Rachel's going to be able to help me out. So can any of you think of some resources that might help you with your goals? And we'll go to our other two folks who didn't answer on that last question. So Kurt, can you think of any resources that might be great for your goal? Maybe. Or Carissa, if either of you has a resource that would be really helpful for your goal. And it doesn't have to be one on the list. Oh, chat. Hello, chat. Oh. Okay. One moment. For some odd reason, it's not working. Okay, I'm seeing a little confusion maybe. So Yusatina, I'm going to use your goal as an example just because you made me think of a resource right away. So Vandal Health Ed is a really great campus office. I don't know if you have heard of them at all, but they offer a ton of free resources to students to help them with their overall well-being. And one of those resources is all about sleep schedules. So they have presentations and materials with all sorts of different tips to help students maintain a healthy sleep schedule. So that might be something that Yusatina wants to put in with her goal because it's a natural fit, right? And she already listed a couple of other resources, which were her friends, and letting them know that this is her goal so that they make sure to like help her achieve it. So let's see. Susanna, you also mentioned going to all of your classes. So one of your avenues of help might be your classmates. You know, if you have any friends in those classes, having someone to remind you to get to class could be really helpful. Let's see, Carissa, yours was about a paper, correct? Or a group project?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a group essay.
Okay, a group essay. So that's challenging. So one resource that might be really helpful from the start is to connect with the Writing Center. So they have all of their services available online this semester, and you can Zoom in and chat with a writing tutor, and they do group sessions as well. So you could get your whole group to Zoom in and figure out a plan for your paper. So that might be a really good resource. Kurt, what was your goal? Maybe. I think we've lost Kurt. Okay. Well, we'll just continue on. I'm going to jump back to our presentation. The point here, though, is that it's really, really critical for you to incorporate this help because it really does make your goals even more achievable. Okay. So our final sort of piece of this Idaho goal setting is observe your progress, right? Which is kind of hard to do. Like, what does that mean? And what that means is just checking in with your goal. So you have it all written down. Are you hitting the steps when you set those deadlines, right? Did you accomplish step 1? Did you meet with this resource? How is it going for yourself? So just being really mindful about the process and making sure that you're checking in to see if everything is going to plan or if you need to add some flexibility to it. Maybe it wasn't reasonable to set the goal of writing 1,500 words in an afternoon, and that didn't happen. That's okay. How can we reevaluate that goal in order to still make it achievable? So what we're going to do is go through some goal examples, and I want you to tell me what's great about them, maybe what's not so great about them, and we'll discuss from there. So our first example is someone's goal is to pass Bio 114 Exam 3. The duration is that the exam happens on November 2nd. Their action plan is to study chapters 15 to 25. Their help is that they don't need any help. And they've observed that they've already gotten some studying done. So what's good about this goal? What isn't good about this goal? And I can just have you chime in as we go.
Part that says I
They're
don't need help
Oh,
probably isn't a good thing.
sorry, can you say that again, Kurt?
The part that says I don't need any help. I mean, it's possible that you know what you're doing, but you can always use some help.
Exactly. That's my first big red flag, is someone saying, I don't need any help. Because even if you're a rock star in it, it's still good to know what help is available to you. Great. Carissa, did you have something to add on there?
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks like they're planning to study a lot, which is good.
Yeah, they definitely they talk about studying. So that's great. One of the things that I think could use some work is that the action plan is just one step, right? They just say they're going to study chapters 15 through 25. They don't really give us when they're going to do that, how they're going to do that, anything like that. So past folks have said things like, this goal could use some more structure. There are that's a lot to study, but no steps for actually how to do it. And like Kurt mentioned, there's tutoring available for this course, but it isn't included in the plan. So even if you're rocking it, still include that help. Okay, we're gonna jump over to example 2. So the goal is to apply for a BP internship. The application is due February 15th. And their action plan is to read the application, prepare materials, revise by February 10th, and submit by February 14th. They're going to ask one of their friends to look at it, and they're going to check in to make sure that their materials are done by February 15th. So what are our thoughts on this kind of goal? Any thoughts? Susanna, do you have any criticisms or compliments for this goal?
I would say that asking your friend to look at it is good, but if it's for an internship, I think you would want actual academic resources instead of your peers.
Right, yeah, I think that's a really great point. So obviously, yeah, get your friend to give a first glance at it, but we have the Office of Career Services, and it's their whole job to help students get internships and jobs. So that might be a much more productive resource for them to use. Great point. Any other comments about this goal? Okay, so a couple of things that I noticed with it is that maybe a few more intermediate deadlines would be good. So they did much better at developing steps for themselves than the last folks, but maybe adding in another check-in, what does prepare materials mean? Maybe they could have, I'm gonna have my resume done by this day, my questions that the internship asks by this day, and I'm gonna meet with career services by this day. That way they have a little more structure for themselves. But overall, this goal is much more structured than the last one, so it looks really good. So to wrap up and to kind of talk about this goal setting, some things that I want you to remember are that goals provide structure and focus, right? So this can be either long-term or short-term. A to-do list is a way of goal setting your day. So make sure you're giving yourself some structure, even in those little short-term goals. And it's even more important to add that structure to long-term goals. So if we think about our academic goals, maybe it's completing this semester or finishing our degree, we have something called an academic plan. And that gives you some baseline structure, but you can add in more structure for yourself to make sure things are going well. Make sure to be specific from creation to execution. You want to be sure that you're giving yourself a really good scaffolding to get all of this done, and then find balance. So make sure you're challenging yourself and use this as motivation for further success. But don't go for a goal that's super unattainable and that's only going to really stress you out in the long run, if that makes sense. Okay, so, oh my goodness, I don't know what happened. That's okay. My screen went black. What we're going to do is hop back over to our course page, and I'm just going to show you where you should turn in everything in case you haven't turned in assignments like this on BB Learn in the past. So once you finish typing up your Idaho goal, what you're going to do is just click on this participation assignment and then attach the file right here. I just tried to point to my screen, realizing you couldn't see that. But then you'll browse your computer, attach the file, and go ahead and hit submit. On that document, just as like a pro tip, you only need to fill out this side that was left blank originally. You don't need to like delete or rewrite any of this. We use these also as handouts to folks. So if like a club is looking for a lot of materials, we try and include both an example and a spot to do it yourself. So go ahead and just fill out the do it yourself bit and then submit that on BB Learn. And those will be due on Friday, just like normal. If we had folks in person, we'd be doing this and then I'd just like give a quick check off. But other than that, that's all I have in regards to goal setting for today. Are there any questions about any of the assignments from last week? I'm finishing up grading and all of those should be in the grade book today.
I don't have a question about that, but I tried to come into class today, but I couldn't find it. What room is it?
Oh, it's administration 326.
Okay, I thought I came there, but the door was locked.
Oh, weird. Okay, I know the door was closed for a bit, but when I got here, it was open. So I'll try and make sure I'm here even earlier next time, so that if there's anything wrong with it, we can get in here. I wonder here. Actually, no.
I'm sure. I don't know. I'm sure it'll be all right.
The room looks like. Oh no. Okay. Well, I can't move the computer monitor much. It's just like one of the rooms that has the wheelie green chairs in it. It's on the 3rd floor. When you come up the giant staircase, you turn to the right.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I'll try and be here earlier on Friday, and hopefully that if it's locked or anything like that, we can still be here. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Well, if you do, you can always email me. I'm gonna go ahead and stop our recording, and